As always, today we'll do the Balance Council tier list. We have our top tier. These are the best changes, the ones I'm most excited for. I think they make the biggest impact. Good changes are just good overall, either for the game or for the cards, or bringing decks into line. Either power increases, decreases, whatever you want to do, just things that are overall good. Neutral changes I don't really have an opinion on because I'm either undecided or I don't care that much. Questionable are kind of things I'm not sure about, but I lean towards not being great. Badder changes I think are bad, and constant changes are just ones that keep getting swapped back and forth, so I don't really have to talk about them too much. All right, sorry about that cut there. I realized we forgot something, and that was to put these in the correct order. So that's been done. Let's get into the tier list. Beginning with the provision increases. So I don't know why we're buffing Toussaint Hospitality. It seems fine to me. Like, you see it used in Mill, you see it used in like Sandor Construct sometimes. You see it used, well, not Sandor Construct, Sandor Clog, not so much the Construct one, so it's like Tactical Decision. But you see this decent amount, and I didn't think it was necessarily that bad, so a little debatable on that one. Ale, Tainted Ale should say, is just always going to get changed because it just, like, no one likes the combo. It's getting more expensive. Torres gaining a provision. Between neutral and good on this. Torres is just such a good card. 15 is really expensive. I guess Assimilate is the alright deck. I'll put it neutral. I don't have strong opinions. I understand it's very good. It has a lot of potential uses. You either point slam it for, 17 points, or you can just use it for setup. And you can also do a mixture based on what's in the opponent's deck. Siege being the cheapest scenario was hilarious. So, and again, Northern Realms was the top performing faction last season again, so kind of makes sense Siege takes a hit here. Evar, also a very good one. I think we'll put this up here. So, yes, this is a big deal. So Evar losing or getting provision, I should say, makes a huge deal because it means you can't abduction it, and getting Evar off of the Henry, and then that's just enough usually to win you the game, because you put spying on it, you get to Torres it, get to play it with abduction. If you're playing abduction, they draw it, you use it with your double cross. This one provision there makes a lot of sense because it's been over buffed down to 2 power. At least I think it's an over buff down to 2 power. But at 11 means you actually have to play it in your deck, which is good. And people were just playing this in random Nilfgaard decks. Like not every guild Nilfgaard deck, but a lot of Nilfgaard decks are just playing this because it's so good last patch. I like this a lot better. Sticky Situation is a good change. This is a nerf to the Trap Elf deck, which was very good last season. And Sticky Situation is a very oppressive card, because if you can't play around it, they just get 4 points a turn. If you can play around it, it gets a lot more manageable. That's kind of hard to do. And if they can play around it, you still get the hand buff. So it makes sense for this one. Seagull is finally not going in a terrible tier category. And we're actually not going to put it in constant. This is good. Seagull 2 for 7 is fine. I don't know why we spent like 10 patches getting it from 1 to 4 to 2 to 7, where it's played at 1 to 4. But I guess now you can play more spam decks with it. It does potentially open up certain decks where you're around spamming this thing. So maybe there's some potential there. But yeah, this is actually probably a good spot for it. We have Open Sesames going in constant. Kind of kills Syndicate for another patch. Highland Warlord in constant. Yeah, it's a 6 version card, but no one can accept that. Not no one, but some people can't accept it. And I think that we got one more provision increase here. It'll be Protector. Now, I'm going to put Protector in neutral. This is actually not only a nerf to Tainted Ale. This is, I believe, a 2-part buff to make this 5 for 5. Which would be interesting. I do want to play some Haymaker Protector decks. I actually have one with a Self-Wound deck that we're going to make, but we'll wait until this gets buffed again to do that, because it actually had this card in it. But yeah, overall, I really like this approach much more than nerfing this approach for the Ale Abuse deck, because this deck really just needs these 2 cards. And if you nerf this one, it has other uses that are interesting. So I'd rather see one get like a rework type of thing, where it gets provisions and power to make it viable in other decks, which I like that. On to provision decreases. We're going to get a buff to the strongest card in the game, of course. Temple, going back to 16. At least, I'm pretty sure it's the strongest card of the game. Maybe we'll make like a bracket sometime and do it, but that's a lot of cards. Golden Necker, going back down. I thought 14 was fine. Whatever. It's going to keep getting changed, obviously. Ball. Let's put our first bad one here. Why are we buffing Ball? I do not understand. Ball, it's kind of like Siege. Ball is a very powerful scenario. It's just really good. It gets one of the best engines in the Aristocrat deck. You get the Dame, which gets a whole bunch of points, and then it kills a unit while giving you statuses. So I'm not a fan of this. Also lets you kill units in a turn twice if you're doing stuff with like Philippe and other things like that, where you get an aristocrat that puts out the status, a gold aristocrat, I should say, and then this guy does, and then you get the guy from this poisons it. So very strong card. Don't like buffing this. Blood Eagle, though, I think is a good one. This goes in top tier if Highland Warlord doesn't get reverted. If Highland Warlord gets reverted, this isn't great. But hopefully this takes one provision off of the just spamming Raid Warrior deck. And that doesn't have Seagull in it anymore either now, because they're spamming that last season. So I think this is... I'll put it in top tier and just hope this doesn't get reverted. Unseen Elder losing a provision. I think I'll just put this in good. Devotion Vampires are bad, but this lets you play in other Devotion decks like Frost is the main one. I guess we'll play Frost with Unseen Elder this season. Haven't done that in a while. It's a fun way to play it. I think we'll do that. But yeah, I'll put in top tier. I like Devotion support just because Devotion makes games more interesting, because not everything has like Heatwave, Oneiromancy, and it opens up the different factions to actually play a lot differently if they don't have neutral cards, which I think is fun. So I like buffs to Devotion. Yawn's going down here, making it better. The best consistency card in the game, getting better once again. Undoing the nerf to 12, whatever. Varaxis, I think this is a really cool change. Again, this isn't... Wow, these are all 11s. Interesting. But yeah, Varaxis is one of those very interesting cards that has a lot of potential deck building. Like you can do double duels with it. It was the main thing you do. But it opens up a lot of options for how you want to build a deck to do that. With like Inspired Zeal. Do you play Selkirk? Do you play Bernard? Probably not, but get the idea. You can also reset on just really big stuff like this. So it's an interesting card and just hasn't seen play in forever. So I'd love to see this get some more love. Omen. Now, you guys know I love myself some Lilith's Omen. I'll put this one in good. It's a good change, I think. The only thing with Omen is, if any of you've watched our Omen decks, they're very... I mean, if you go Omen round 2 opener, you just kind of would. So, it's very 2-0 oppressive, but it's an interesting card. There have to be more uses for Omen. That's why we're putting it in good. Like, maybe at 10 you can find some more uses for this outside of just going into your Mamuna and your Bloody Mistress. Just because you're paying 10 to do this, and it's very restrictive in what you can do with the cards you pull out. So there have to be more uses for it. We'll try and find something, but I do like the idea of making this more accessible and making a little bit more variety to the fruits decks, maybe. We'll see. Gezeros. Gezeros is getting very, very strong now. He still wasn't played at 11. I think I'll put him at good. I can see this being a bit dangerous, but he wasn't played at 11. 10's a bigger deal. You can use those revisions to put some stuff back into your movement decks. Maybe play him in Symbiosis. I really like one thing I really like about him being at 10 is previously, if you had 11 provisions in Symbiosis, you could play like Philavandrel. You could play like Protector. There are a lot of choices. At 10, he gives you something over those choices, an extra provision used somewhere else in the deck, which gives him another spot to be played outside of just movement. So I like this, I think. Heart of Terror. What are we talking about? Heart of Terror, I love this change. He goes to 9. And the reason why I like this so much is because his spot in Skellige was just lost. Like, he just lost his spot to Tyr. Right? They're both a tall punish. Tyr is always better unless the unit has a shield. Or armor. Because sometimes people forget about the shield one. But yeah, really great change, I think. It also lets it be played in Golden Necker as a tall punish, which is something that Skellige doesn't really have for their Golden Necker decks. Like, you can do a lot of damage, but tall punish exclusively is kind of hard to get in there. And it just gives it a spot to be played, which is what I would like to see. All cards have a spot to be played in theory. Obviously, some stuff like this will never have a spot again, but I like this. Really great. Maybe you can get played in Pirates, extra provision. We'll see. But I just like having this as an option. I think it will see play now. Then we have Ciri. These are the power increases. This is Ciri Dash. I'm all neutral on this one. Ciri is an extremely powerful card. Obviously, drawing a card is incredible, but the timer is a long time. This makes it harder for her to kill. Let's see, where does this make a difference? What? Because you're always leadering her, like shield walling her or carapacing her for the most part. Or putting defender in front of her. So this makes her threshold from shield wall from 7 to 8 after you remove the shield. I don't know. We'll see. This might just let her get played. I don't think it'll let her get played outside of anything with a way to protect her still, though. We'll see how this turns out. Caltalus decks didn't really succeed even with the Caltalus buff last patch, and Shield Wall doesn't really use her. But we'll see. Maybe we'll do something with Shield Wall on her. Other Siri, though, I really like this one. Siri is just a fun card, right? Now you're doing 9 for 9 when you play it, and then it goes back in your hand if you lose the round, and then you're getting a 9-point play the next round instead of like an 8. 8's kind of mediocre, to be honest, from cards in your deck, so this is a little bit better. You're going to shuffle her back, but I think maybe she'll get a bit more play now. I do want to see her get played. I just wish there was a deck that could really use her synergies. Like the 3 pings theoretically should have some use. We'll think about it. I do like seeing her get played, though. It's nice to have this series in the game, right? Like, you see a decent amount of Gyarados, even a decent amount of series. They're very iconic characters. Love to see their cards be at least playable. Then we have a Fawn. I think this is a bit questionable. I already see a Fawn occasionally. Not too much, but, like, see him in Mill sometime. Not Mill. What's it called? I see occasionally in Soldiers, that's what it is. Occasionally in Soldiers, sometimes in some other decks, too. I don't remember what else. There's some other deck that played him last season we played. I don't remember what it was. We've seen him a couple times, and for cards that come out of the deck, 5 power is a bit high, plus he's got the Order, so potentially very good. Not sure about this one. Madman Lugos going up to straight up the top tier. A new, not new, but like, you know what I mean, like a new option because he's been buffed for doing a bunch of damage, probably in Patricidal Fury. It gives his floor a bit better, ceiling a bit better, and overall just helps him compete with the more modern cards. Very iconic Skellige card, and no one plays this, so hopefully we'll get some play with this guy now. I think we'll put him in top tier just for now, because hopefully we can get some payoff with him. Sov got nerfed a couple times, so maybe you do this as a payoff to your Patricidal Fury instead of Sov. I could maybe see that. Might try that out. Vessel, I think, is probably good. When she went to 6, no one cared. Well, we tried her out. Some people tried her out. I think Vess is actually like a decent card, 7 for 7. I actually think she's pretty good. Giving Zeal is really useful. 7 is very difficult to remove without like a dedicated removal. And she doesn't have the threat of like Ildico where everything gets Zeal. It's very cooldown dependent. And she'll see that 2 damage right away. And keep in mind, when you're giving things Zeal, you have to compare it to Siege Support, right? Siege Support's a 4 Persian card that gives you Zeal. So you have to compare it to that. Like, giving Zeal is not the most amazing thing in Northern Realms because you do it that way and you've inspired Zeal, so like to see that. Roderick. All these 6 for Vision, 7 for Vision, engine cards like Edmund, haven't seen him ever, but these guys, I think, all deserve these buffs to get played in their respective factions. They added them all together. They all do kind of the same thing. They give you engine, and then you can choose to end the engine and use the order for some kind of benefit. I like that design. I think it's a fun design. It gives you a lot of choices, and choices are generally good. So I like this getting buffed. Hopefully see some play. And also it's going back in constant. Hopefully it doesn't go back to 3. Last season, I hoped it would stay at 4, but then the Seagull Council tried to buff it to 5 provisions, and then everyone's like, no, that can't happen. So hopefully it stays here. Is this a constant? I don't think it's been changed in a while. Let's put it in bad then. What? Of all the cards to gain power, these are the power buffs, by the way. I think I forgot to say it. But of all the cards to gain power, Deranged Corsair is not one I would pick. It's 12 for 5, which is a bit crazy. It does take time because you have the Cataclysm, but the time is damage. And just having this have a higher floor, so when they play this and they don't kill the card they infused, they didn't want to commit a leader or something to it, it just gives them a bigger floor on that. I don't like that. I think this card is good, and I don't think it needs a buff, especially not a power buff. It definitely doesn't need a provision buff, to be fair. Scribe. I think I just feel like this is going to be a Fallen Knight situation all over again with the Scribe, where it just doesn't get played in Viruswar and just gets thrown in Crimes or something. I'll put in questionable. I don't think it's a great idea. Very strong engine. And I just think it's going to be thrown in Crimes like Cleaver or something. So, you can just Cyrus, pull this back, and then just go Cleaver, and you're getting coins refunded on the spawns. It just feels like a Fallen Knight situation when Fallen Knight got overbuffed. I don't like it. But we'll see. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt because it won't throw in bad just because Firesworn is an archetype that kind of needs help. It's just hard to help it when all the other decks just steal its cards when they get buffed. Terraclue Axe Thrower. I actually love this one. We'll put it in good. I don't think I'll make anything incredibly different, but I do think it's a good change. So Terraclue Axe Wielder. This is the guy that does 2 on deploy with the exposed deal 2 more. So it was 5 for 4 before with a conditional 7. Now it's a 6 for 4 with a conditional 8. And the damage is random on the exposed. This is one of those cards that is very interesting to play with because it has synergy overlap between different factions, right? It has pirate synergy, has self-wound synergy, has stuff like that. You can do things with it. You can do stuff with Croc, obviously. A lot of interesting things. I do like seeing these cards get buffed. Albric. This is the power decreases now. I mean, this card's just played in Renfree, which is just a really good deck. So, sure, we'll give it a good. It reduces the hyper thin points a bit. It does still give you engine points when doing it. But I guess it might differentiate it a little bit more from the other hyper thin where you have a really big unit like Golem or something, and then you have this which is more engine-y. It's still not going to differentiate it that much, but I think overall this is fine. I'll put it in neutral. I don't care that much. I think we'll put it here. Corrupted Flaminica, Renfree Beast, one of the best decks last season. This card's still an incredible finisher compared to all the other finishers in the game, usually about 24 points, 20 to 25 points, something like that. So yeah, 8 provisions. It just gets mid-range abuse because you go round 2, play it, revive it round 3. Very, very powerful card. Understandable there. Ehorquax is no longer going to be inconstant because it can't get nerfed more in power. But I think we do just put it there for now. Yeah. I think that's where it goes. I'm just throwing Iris in constant ahead of time because she's going to get nerfed down to 1 power just like Living Armor, which is also in here. Last time being on the list, hopefully, unless something really weird happens. Then we have Lord Riptide, also another constant change here. I guess people can't have it at 10. They have to have it, or people can't decide between 9 and 10. It's an incredible card at both power levels, so I don't really get it, but whatever. Then we have Master of Puppets. I like this, losing a power on this guy. It makes him stronger if your deck's dedicated around building him, but if you randomly create him, it makes it less likely for him to live, which makes the RNG situations where the opponent gets it a lot worse. Because there's a lot of cards that have like 3 damage, or like a leader can do 3 damage or something. So I like this having more ceiling if you build your deck to use it, but then not being as good if you randomly generate it because it can die easier, although it does have a higher ceiling if the opponent doesn't kill it. But being able to kill this when the opponent randomly generates it will be much easier. So I do like this. Messenger of the Sea, where Rain continues to die for the sins of Renfree Rain. So it's just what it is. Rain is unplayable outside of Renfree, still pretty much. Even more so now, because this is going down to 3 power. Much easier move. It is a strong engine, but compared to like Flutter and stuff, it's pretty similar. It's just the fact this gets used in Renfree that makes it so good, because that deck can offset the downsides of playing a deck really reliant on engines by just shoving much of tempo as well, where stuff like the Vampire deck can't necessarily do that as much, outside like a Goldnecker Tome version. Sandor, it's kind of fine, I think. 6 versus 5 when he comes down is a big deal, and he loses a ton of value if you don't get the Arrakis drone. I guess not a ton, like a decent amount of value if you don't get the drone, depending on what deck you're playing. But as far as power nerfs go, this is one that I think is kind of understandable. Card is very good if you get its ability off. And then Shady Vendor, going to go down here in the constant tier, getting changed once again. Another big nerf to Syndicate. More so, this Open Sesame getting nerfed kind of is the kills it. But yeah. So that is the tier list for this season's changes. Let's take a look. Anything exciting here? We're going to play a Golden Necker thing with this, probably. I do want to make a Patch Title Fury deck with this. We're going to play, for sure, Frost with Unseen Elder. Yeah, some interesting stuff there. Actually, it's not that much interesting. Is there? Hold on a second. Yeah, there's some decent changes, but I'm not seeing a lot of new decks to make here, which is a bit unfortunate. But we'll see what we can do. We still have requests built up that we'll take a look at. Some weird changes, like I don't know why we're buffing these cards. Doesn't make sense. And a Gigantic come out here in the constant. Although, to be fair, I did proactively throw this in here. But it's going to keep getting nerfed, so that is what it is. But guys, hope you enjoyed the Balance Council. Let me know what you're excited to play next season. And if you have any suggestions, please leave them here. We'll have some great fun trying to make your guys' decks. And then for those of you who are interested, we'll go take a look at the season summary now. So as always, here I must say this with a more emphasis than normal. This is just my games. This doesn't represent the ladder, blah, blah, blah. However, I will note this season I was very busy and got sick and such, so we didn't play that much. Like, we only played like 100-something games. So very much so take this with a grain of salt more than normal. It's just for fun, though, so I didn't want to skip it. As far as what we have here for factions, Monsters and Skellige tied, Squirtle close third, and then 3% Syndicate, some Nilfgaard, some Northern Realms, but these three really dominating. As far as the decks we saw, the most popular one in Monsters was Ren-Free Koshé, followed by Manor Koshé, followed by Ren-Free Vampires, and V. Again, on these, the numbers, the difference from our average MMR of a game we played that we encountered us at. So if our average MMR was 2,400, this would be 399. That's just an example number, obviously, but that's how it works. As far as Nilfgaard, most common deck we saw was Mill at a relatively lower level, understandable, Bombs at a relatively lower level, and then some Henry Assimilates. And you'll notice here the numbers for the times we encounter these decks are much lower than normal. It's because we didn't play that many games, but I figured we just still do this for fun. As far as Northern Realms, most common deck we saw and best performing was Melidly Traveling Priestess. Very good deck still. This should say Shield Wall Engines. This is just the engine deck for Shield Wall. I do like that deck. Some Temple Damavend and Spellweaver Spam Mages. That sounds about right. First Skellige, most common one was Ren-Free Beasts, followed by Ren-Free Warriors, followed by Skellige Witchers, which is the best performing one, which makes sense to me. I think this is probably the best one. Along with Ren-Free Beasts, very good. Then we have Otkel Quad Blessing, some Pirates, and some Seagull spam. This is just only spamming Seagulls with like blessings and stuff. As far as Scoia'tael, Harmony and Symbiosis tied, although Symbiosis I believe is much better than Harmony. I don't know why we saw so much Harmony. It was probably to test Pavko. That's probably why. That was more at the beginning of the season. Symbiosis more later. Then we have some Dragon Bombs, some Ren-Free Hand Buff, and some Devotion Symbiosis. I guess you could add these together if you wanted to. I just differentiate them for how my data recording works to make it easier for me to have the Devotion versus non-Devotion at the end of the season. At the last slide, I should say. There's Syndicate. These are the decks we played more than twice, and since we only played like 3 Syndicate opponents, none of them got data. And overall, most popular decks, we kind of saw them over here. Again, we didn't play enough for this data to be meaningful, which is why this graph isn't any fun to look at. So, these are just the most popular ones we saw. As far as leaders, most common leaders we got for Monsters, Force of Nature, no surprise there, all the Overwhelming Hunger, Blood Scent, and then a couple of everything else. For Northern Realms, we got Shield Wall, Pincer Maneuver, Inspired Zeal, Stockpile, Immobilization, no Uprising, no Royal Inspirations, which is interesting. Maybe we'll play Knights again. Knights is an interesting deck. I think that's the only Royal Inspiration deck that's ever existed. That's why I was thinking about it. For Scoia'tael, most popular leaders were Nature's Gift and Precision Strike for a bunch of various hyper control stuff, and then obviously for Symbiosis things. Call of Harmony, then a couple, like 1 Guerrilla Tactics, 1 Deadeye Ambush, 2 Invigorates. Pretty decent spread there. Skellige, we have Blaze of Glory, Rage of the Sea, Reckless Flurry, Onslaught, a couple Petricidal Furies, 1 Earthsign Ritual, which was Self-Wound, obviously. Non-Golden Necro, I should say. And then no Battle Trances. After Druids got their massive nerf a couple patches ago, they have not really been played. And Nilfgaard, most common one was Imprisonment, just for a variety of stuff like Bombs and Ren-Free. Toussaint Hospitality was the second most one, which is getting buffed this patch, which is weird. Then we have Double Cross, Imperial Formation, Dactyl Cision, and 1 Enslave, which, fun fact, this was a Shupen Slave, actually. Then as far as Syndicate, we saw 1 Pirate's Cove, 1 Line Pocket, 1 Blood Muddy. And overall, here is our most used leaders, and least used is not useful because we didn't play enough games for this to be meaningful. But yeah. And then I guess we'll go into the last page here as far as neutral packages, and we have some big news for this one. So guys, it has come to my attention while assembling. I'm combining all the past season summaries into one like history of the Balance Council to see what overall has happened there. Just all of them together into one data sheet, like maybe track stuff over time, and that huge amount of effort doing that, so probably won't be done anytime soon. But while doing that, it came to my attention that my Renfree search category that we usually do for the neutral packages was incorrect. All the other ones were incorrect, but Renfree was always undercounting the number of Renfree games, just how I set up the data. So our Renfree games, we have like 5 or 6%, and all the previous ones were incorrect. There was a lot more than that, which is why this season we have 23% of our games were against Renfree. Fantastic. Everyone knows I love that card. So yeah, that I just want to make you guys aware. I've actually been undercounting Renfree in all the past season summaries by accident. So that's weird. But other than that, pretty normal here. I actually played like 7% of our games against bombs, which is really fun. Some dragons, these kind of go together. Construct, Shoop, Golden Necker. Now we played a lot of Construct this season. And then finally, Devotion versus Non-Devotion. 83% Devotion, 17%, or 83% Non-Devotion. Continues to fall, as always. And then we end up with our last category, Disconnectors and Emote Spammers. I don't know why, if I ever leave this off, people ask about it. But yeah, the disconnectors we had was a Renfree player, the one of them I think we played, and then a Spellweaver spam mage player who disconnected. Yeah, so that's it for this season, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know what you're excited for next season, and we'll see you then.